Hey, White Station Nation, how are you? I've been missing you so much. Um, Last time we read chapter 15 of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we'll read chapter 16 today and then chapter 17 next time. Chapter 17 is the last chapter of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is just one book in the Chronicles of Narnia. There are 7 total books, so you want to make sure that you read all 7. And they're AR tests, so when you get finished, you'll do AR. We've been working on the presidents and the states and the capitals. Last time we learned about the capital of Idaho, and the capital of Idaho was Boise. That's right. And so today we're going to learn about Illinois. What is the capital of Illinois? So think about that. I want you to memorize that. Can you remember what Alabama's capital is? Montgomery. Alaska, Juneau. Arizona, Phoenix. Arkansas, Little Rock. California, Sacramento. Ah! Ow! What? What are you doing? Oh. He came to listen to books, and he decided that reading upside down was not his cup of tea, so he decided to jump into my scarf because I am becoming known as the Scarf Lady. So he said, "What?" Well, I do love scarves, and so I wanted to wear my scarves, even though I'm wearing it with a t-shirt, because I know all of you miss seeing me in my scarves. And when I moved, I noticed how many scarves I had. So it was kind of my husband said, you need to wear a scarf, different scarf every day. And so that's what I've tried to do, is wear a different scarf every day. So you'll notice I've been wearing different scarves. I have duplicated some because some of them are my favorite scarves. Okay, he said get to the reading. Okay, so let me get back to this. Connecticut's capital, Hartford. Colorado's capital, Denver. Delaware's capital, Dover. And Delaware, I think, is the oldest state, if I'm not mistaken. Florida's capital, Tallahassee. Georgia's capital, Atlanta, and it's got a nickname, Hotlanta, because it's so hot in Atlanta. Hawaii's capital, Honolulu. Dr. Breeden loves to go to Hawaii. Ask him all about it. Idaho's capital is Boise, and we're going to work on Illinois today. So think about that, and at the end we'll talk about that. We're going to meet our 14th president in a few minutes, but our first president was George Washington. John Adams was our second president. Thomas Jefferson was the third president. James Madison was our fourth president. James Monroe was our fifth president. John Quincy Adams was our sixth president. Our seventh president, Andrew Jackson, Tennessee boy. James K. Polk was the 11th president. Our 12th president, Zachary Taylor. And Millard Fillmore was our 13th president. And then I want you to think about our 14th president, and at the end I'll do the big reveal. So we've got our presidents and our states and capital. So I'm back to nursery rhymes because I finally finished the Nutshelf Library by Maury Sendak, and so I'm going to go back to Mother Goose book. And in the move, I found a set of books, and they're Walt Disney's books. I got all 4. There were 4 in the series back when I was in 2nd grade. And I read and read and read these. And this portion, I think I told you this at the beginning, is what I read to my baby brother and sister. They were 9 and 10 years apart from me. So I don't think that I read this one yet. Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Up Jack got, and home did trot as fast as he could caper. Went to bed and plastered his head with vinegar and brown paper. So that is Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill originally was written to help children memorize or to know different measurements, units of measurement. Oh, and here's another one. I love this one. A diller, a dollar. A diller, a dollar, a 10 o'clock scholar. What makes you come so soon? You used to come at 10 o'clock, and now you come at noon. Right there. All right, and so that's our two Mother Goose, and I will read another one next time. Oh, you want a picture book by Dr. Seuss? Oh, because he was your creator. So Dr. Seuss was the Cat in the Hat's creator, and he wants a Dr. Seuss book because we haven't read a Dr. Seuss book. Oh, 15 reads ago, we read Go Dog Go and something else, maybe 13 reads ago. So I'm going to read one of my favorites, I Am Not Going to Get Up Today. Well, that's the way I felt this morning. I had to get up and go to school and give some of their school supplies to parents. It was so good to see parents and some of you children as well. I Am Not Going to Get Up Today was written, or it was copyrighted in 1987. I'm not going to get up today. Dr. Seuss did not illustrate this one, James Stevenson did, so you'll notice that the artwork's a little bit different than Dr. Seuss's, but it's his writing. Please let me be. Please go away. I'm not going to get up today. Ring. The alarm can ring, the birds can peep. My pillow is warm, my bed is warm, the pillow's deep. Today's the day I'm going to sleep. I feel like that every Saturday morning, and then I wake up early on Saturday. I don't care if kids are getting up right now all over town. I'm the kid who isn't getting up. I'm staying down. He wanted to see the pictures. All around the world, they're getting up, and that's okay with me. Let the kids get up in Switzerland or Memphis, Tennessee. Can you believe Dr. Seuss put Memphis, Tennessee in there? Let the kids get up in Alaska and in China. I don't care. Let the kids get up in Italy. Let the kids get up in Spain. Let them get up in Massachusetts and Connecticut and Maine. Let the kids get up in London and in Paris and Berlin. Let them get up all they want to, but not me. I'm sleeping in. I've never been so sleepy since I can't remember when. You can take away my breakfast. Give my egg back to the hen. Nobody's going to get me up, no matter what he does. Today's my day for woozy snoozy zazoo. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, sorry. Cat in the Hat is so demanding. Oh, just loves the books and the pictures too. You can tickle my feet, you can shake my bed, you can pour cold water on my head, but you're wasting your time, so go away. I'm not going to get up today. In bed is where I'm going to stay, and I don't care what the neighbors say. I never liked them anyway. Let them try to wake me up. Let them scream and yell and yelp. They can yelp from now till Christmas, but it isn't going to help. My bed is warm, my pillow's deep. Today's the day I'm going to sleep. Have you ever felt that way? I don't choose to be up walking. I don't choose to be up talking. The only thing I'm choosing is to lie here woozy snoozing. So won't you kindly go away? I'm not going to get up today. You won't get me up with a strawberry flip. You won't get me up with a marshmallow dip or a pineapple butterscotch ding dang do. My tongue is asleep and my teeth are too. You can try with dogs and roosters. You can try with goats and geese. But I'm going to go on snoozing. You can bring in the police. This was Margaret's book, and she loved this book too. You can print it in the paper, spread the news all over town, but nothing's going to get me up. Today I'm staying down. You can shoot at me with peas and beans. You can bring in the United States Marines. You can put the whole thing on TV. But I won't get up today. Not me. Nothing's going to get me up. Why can't you understand? You'll only waste your money if you hire a big brass band. That's why I say, please go away. I'm not going to get up today. Wow, could you sleep with all that commotion? I don't know if I could. I guess he really means it. That's crazy. So, you can have the eggs. All right, I'm Not Going to Get Up Today by Dr. Seuss and illustrated by James Stevenson. Great book. All right. Oh, you like that one, huh? Oh, Dr. Seuss is your favorite? Yeah, I like Dr. Seuss too. I like Green Eggs and Ham. That's one of my favorites. Oh, you like The Cat in the Hat. Of course you do. Oh, and The Cat in the Hat Returns. Okay, I'll look for it and see if I can find it. He wants me to read The Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat Returns. All right. So that leads us into The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, chapter 16. Remember that the White Witch had slain Aslan, and but then he arose from the dead, and he was able to go take the children, and he's taking the children to some place that we really don't know, but he told them to get on Lucy and Susan to get on his back, and they're holding on for dear life, and they've gone off. And that takes us to chapter 16. What happened about the statues? What an extraordinary place, cried Lucy. All those stone animals, and people too. It's like a museum. Hush, said Susan. Aslan's doing something. He was indeed. He had bounded up to the stone lion and breathed on him. Then, without waiting a moment, he whisked away, almost as if he had been a cat chasing its tail, and breathed also on a stone dwarf, which, as you remember, was standing a few feet from the lion with his back to it. Then he pounced on a tall stone dryad, which stood beyond the dwarf, turned rapidly aside to deal with the stone rabbit on his right, and rushed on to two centaurs. But at that moment Lucy said, "Oh, Susan, look! Look at the lion!" I expect that you've seen someone put a lighted match to a bit of newspaper, which is propped up in a grate against an unlit fire in a fireplace, and for a second nothing seems to have happened, and then you notice that a tiny streak of flame creeping along the edge of the newspaper. It was like that now. For a second after Aslan had breathed upon him, the stone lion just looked the same. Then a tiny streak of gold began to run along the white marble of his back. Then it spread. Then the color seemed to lick all over him like flame licks at a bit of paper. Then, While his hindquarters were still obviously stone, the lion shook his mane, and all the heavy stone folds rippled into living hair. Then he opened his great red mouth, warm and living, and gave a prodigious yawn. Arrgh! And now his hind legs had come to life. He lifted one of them and watched himself. Then, having caught sight of Aslan, he went bounding after him and frisking round him, whimpering with delight and jumping up to lick his face. Of course, the children's eyes turned to follow the lion, but the sight they saw was so wonderful that they soon forgot about him. Everywhere the statues were coming to life. The courtyard looked no longer like a museum. It looked more like a zoo. Creatures were running after Aslan and dancing round him till he was almost hidden in the crowd. Instead of all the deadly white, the courtyard was now a blaze of colors. Glossy chestnut sides of centaurs, indigo horns of unicorns, dazzling plumage of birds, ruddy brown of foxes, dogs and satyrs, yellow stockings and crimson hoods of dwarfs, and the birch girls in silver, and the beech girls in fresh, transparent green, and the larch girls in green so bright that it was almost yellow. And instead of the deadly silence, the whole place rang with the sounds of happy roarings, brayings, yelping, barkings, squealings, cooings, neighings, stampings, shouts, hurrahs, songs, and laughter. "Oh," said Susan in a different tone, "look, I wonder, is it safe?" Lucy looked and saw that Aslan had just breathed on the feet of a stone giant. "It's all right," shouted Aslan joyously. "Once the feet are put right, all the rest of him will follow." "That wasn't exactly what I meant," whispered Susan to Lucy. But it was too late to do anything about it now, even if Aslan would have listened to her. The change was already creeping up the giant's leg, and now he was moving his feet. A moment later he lifted the club off his shoulder and rubbed his eyes and said, "Well, bless me, I must have been asleep now. Where's that dratted little witch that was running about the grounds? Somewhere just by my feet it was." But when everyone had shouted up to him to explain what had really happened, and when the giant had put his hand to his ear and got them to repeat it all over again, so that at last he understood, then he bowed down till his head was no farther off the top of the haystack and touched his cap repeatedly to Aslan, beaming all over his honest, ugly face. Giants of any sort are so rare in England, and so few giants are good-tempered, that 10 to 1 you have never seen a giant when his face was beaming. It's a sight well worth looking at. "Now for the inside of the house," said Aslan. "Look alive, everyone, upstairs and downstairs and in my lady's chambers. Leave no corner unsearched. You never know where some poor prisoner may be concealed." And into the interior they all rushed, and for several minutes the whole of the dark, horrible, fusty old castle echoed with the opening of windows, and with everyone's voice crying out at once, "Don't forget the dungeons! Give us a hand with the door! Here's another little winding stair! Oh, I say, here's a poor kangaroo! Call Aslan! Whew! How it smells in here! Look out for the trap door! Up here! There are a whole lot more on the landing!" But the best of all was when Lucy came rushing upstairs, shouting, "Aslan, Aslan, I've found Mr. Tumnus! Oh, do come quick!" A moment later, Lucy and the little fawn were holding each other by both hands and dancing round and round for joy. The little chap was none the worse for having been a statue, and was, of course, very interested in all she had to tell them. But at last the ransacking of the witch's fortress had ended. The whole castle stood empty, and every door and window open, and the light and the sweet spring air flooding into all the dark and evil places which needed them so badly. The whole crowd of liberated statues surged back into the courtyard, and it was then that someone, Tumnus, I think, first said, and look at the harangue of animals. That is awesome that the Creator is just creating life back into them. But how are we going to get out? For Aslan had got in by a jump and the gates were still locked. That'll be all right. And then, rising on his hind legs, he bawled up at the giant. "Hi, you up there," he roared. "What's your name?" "Giant Rumblebuffin, if it pleases your honour," said the giant, once more touching his cap. "Well then, Giant Rumblebuffin," said Aslan, "just let us out of this, will you?" "Certainly, your honour. It will be my pleasure," said Giant Rumblebuffin. "Stand well away from the gates, all you little uns." Then he strode up to the gate himself, and bang, bang, bang went his huge club. The gates creaked at the first blow, cracked at the second, and shivered at the third. Then he tackled the towers on each side of them, and after a few minutes of crashing and thudding, both the towers and a good bit of the wall on each side went thundering down in a mass of hopeless rubble. And when the dust cleared, it was odd, standing in that dry, grim, stony yard, to see through the gap all the grass and the waving trees and sparkling streams of the forest and the blue hills beyond that, and beyond them the sky. "Blowed me if I ain't all in a muck of sweat," said the giant Rumblebuffin, puffing like the largest railway engine. "Comes of being out of condition, I suppose. Neither of you young ladies has such thing as a pocket-kerchief about you." "Yes, I have," said Lucy, standing on tiptoes and holding up her handkerchief as far as she could reach. "Thank you, missy," said the giant Rumblebuffin, stooping down. Next moment Lucy got rather a fright, for she found herself being caught in mid-air between the giant's forefinger and thumb. But just as she was getting near his face, he suddenly startled, and then he put her gently back on the ground, muttering, bless me, I've picked up the little girl instead. I beg your pardon, missy, I thought you was the handkerchief." "No, no," said Lucy, laughing, "here it is." This time he managed to get it, but it was only about the same size as a Smarty tablet would be to you. Just a little Smarty, like candy. Back then they had little saccharin tablets that they would sweeten their tea and coffee with. So that when she saw him solemnly rub it to and fro across his great face, she said, "I'm afraid it's not much use to you, Mr. Rumblebuffin." Not at all," said the giant politely. "Never met a nicer handkerchief. So fine, so handy, so I don't know how to describe it." "Oh, what a nice giant he is," said Lucy to Mr. Tumnus. "Oh, yes," replied the fawn. "All the Buffins always were. One of the most respected of all the giant families in Narnia. Not very clever, perhaps. I never knew a giant that was, but all an old family with traditions, you know. If he'd been the other sort, she'd never turned him into stone." At this point, Aslan clapped his paws together and called for silence. "Our day's work is not yet over," he said, "and if the witch is to be finally defeated before bedtime, we must find the battle at once." "And join in, I hope, sir," added the largest of the centaurs. "Of course," said Aslan. "And now, those who can't keep up, that is, children, dwarfs, and small animals, must ride on the backs of those who can, that is, lions, centaurs, unicorns, horses, giants, and eagles. Those who are good with their noses must come in the front with us lions to smell out where the battle is. Look lively and sort yourselves." And with that, a great deal of bustle and cheering they did. The most pleased of the lot, of course, were the lions, who kept running about everywhere pretending to be very busy, but really in order to say things like, "Did you hear what he said? Us lions? That means him and me. Us lions. That's what I like about Aslan. No side, no standoffish. us lions. That meant him and me. At least he went on saying this till Aslan had loaded him with 3 dwarfs, 1 dryad, 2 rabbits, and a hedgehog. That steadied him a bit. When all were ready, it was a big sheepdog who actually helped Aslan most in getting them sorted into their proper order. They set out through a gap in the castle wall. The first of the lions and dogs went nosing about in all directions, but then suddenly one great hound picked up the scent and gave a bay. There was no time lost after that. Soon all the dogs and lions and wolves and other hunting animals were going at full speed with their noses to the ground, and all the others streaked out for about half a mile behind them, were following as fast as they could. The noise was like an English fox hunt, only better, because every now and then, with the music of the hounds, was mixed with the roar of other lions, and sometimes the far deeper and more awful roar of Aslan himself. Faster and faster they went as the scent became easier and easier to follow. And then, just as they came to the last curve in the narrow, winding valley, Lucy heard, above all these noises, another noise. A different one, which gave her a strange feeling inside. It was the noise of shouts and shrieks and of clashing of metal against metal. Then they came out of the narrow valley, and at once she saw the reason. There stood Peter and Edmund and all the rest of Aslan's army, fighting desperately against the crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now in the daylight they looked even stranger and more evil and more deformed. There also seemed to be far more of them. Peter's army, which had their backs to her, looked terribly few, and there were statues dotted all over the battlefield, so apparently the witch had been using her wand, but she did not seem to be using it now. She was fighting with her stone knife. It was Peter she was fighting, both of them going at it so hard that Lucy could hardly make out what was happening. She only saw the stone knife and Peter's sword flashing so quickly that they looked like 3 knives and 3 swords. That pair were in the center. On each side, the line stretched out. Horrible things were happening wherever she looked. "Off my back, children!" shouted Aslan, and they both tumbled off. Then, with a roar that shook all of Narnia from the western lamp-post to the shores of the eastern sea, the great beast flung himself upon the White Witch. Lucy saw her face lifted toward him for 1 second with an expression of terror and amazement. The lion and the witch had rolled over together, but with the witch underneath, and at the same moment all warlike creatures whom Aslan had led from the witch's house rushed madly on the enemy line. Dwarfs with their battle axes, dogs with their teeth, the giant with his club, and his feet also crushed dozens of foe. Unicorns with their horns, centaurs with the sword and hoofs, and Peter's tired army cheered, and the newcomers roared, and the enemy squealed and gibbered till the wood re-echoed with the din of the onset. Well, I guess I've put him to sleep. And that is the end of chapter 16. So I will read chapter 17 next time. Remember, if you need some books, you can go to Novel Bookstore. It's at Poplar and Perkins. They do curbside delivery, and they deliver to your house. And I think you can go in and purchase some things now. Or the libraries have opened up. You can go to the library and check out some books. So that takes us to our states and our capitals. And it looks like Springfield is the capital of Illinois. Springfield is the capital of Illinois. And Franklin Pierce was our 14th president. Franklin Pierce. He had 1 term, and his vice president was William King. He was an a Democrat, part of the Democrat Party. So that tells us a little bit about that. So until next time, I'll see you on YouTube.